Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean. Welcome to Voice of the Sea. In this episode, we learn about how whales and scientific research intersect as scientists use multi-beam sonar to map the ocean floor of the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, which includes a range of critical marine habitat. We'll meet oceanographer Chris Kelly, marine technician Colleen Peters, and marine mammal observer Josh Tucker. We catch up with these researchers as they prepare to leave for a 30-day research cruise aboard the Falkor. The Falkor is an 82.9-meter research vessel with a 23-person full-time crew and a capacity for 18 researching scientists. The ship itself boasts an amazing array of scientific equipment, from wet labs and seawater capabilities to remotely operated vehicles and multiple sonar systems. The Falkor is the flagship of the Schmidt Ocean Institute, a nonprofit established to advance discovery and knowledge about our ocean. Researchers can apply for free use of the Falkor along with its crew, technology, and equipment in exchange for public sharing of information.
We hope that scientists from around the world will be able to take advantage of this ship and to be able to use the technology on board to extract data and to be able to share that data worldwide. It's hard to predict and to be able to pinpoint exactly what that data will be used for, but we don't have to make that decision about what the data is going to be used for today. That decision can come later. What we need to do is be able to provide the asset and to be able to provide the opportunity for those scientists to go out there and to study the oceans, to explore the depths of the sea, and to really challenge themselves and to challenge the world.
Oceanographer Chris Kelly is mapping the seafloor of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. At the same time, he is investigating the impact of sonar on marine mammals. Chris explains the interaction between the ship's research sonar used for mapping and the type of echolocation sonar that whales use for navigation. So one of my questions, Chris, is you're using this sonar to map the ocean floor, and then we know the marine mammals are using sonar to echolocate or find their way around. How are those two things related?
Well, for one thing, different mammals use different frequencies of sound, or acoustic or vocalizations, if you will. Same thing for the mapping ship. We use different frequencies of sonar for our mapping activities.
The effects of this research have global implications because researchers, entrepreneurs, and governments are expending effort to map more of the ocean floor in order to better understand ecosystems, harvest materials, and look for resources. And part of what you guys were also looking at on this cruise, I understand, is how does the sonar affect the behavior of different kinds of whales?
Right, that's correct. So in this case, the sperm whales, their vocalizations were recorded on our system. As far as how we're affecting these whales, we are trying to answer this on this cruise. At the moment, there is no solid data on how multi-beam sonar affects the behavior of these types of whales, so we're trying to collect that data right now.
And you actually have a person who's dedicated to watching for whale activity the whole time.
That's correct. And they're not just looking out and telling the bridge, watch out, there are whales up ahead. They're actually recording the data of that particular encounter. So they're recording what species, what time, the exact position, what the whales were doing at the time, what direction were they heading, how close were they to the ship, what direction the ship was doing at the time, how many whales were there, what are the sighting conditions. There's this whole 2-page data sheet they have to fill out. So this is it. The observers would stand right here, and they'd be looking out in front of the ship and all around, at least 180 degrees in all directions.
And how long at one time would you stand and watch?
All day, from sunrise to sunset. That's the requirement.
So how long would any one person have to stand and be vigilant?
Probably be 2 hours maximum, then we will switch around and transfer out, because it's actually very difficult. You know, you think all you're doing is you're sitting up here looking for whales, and it's not that at all. You know, to actually focus on trying to see very subtle clues. For example, even a sperm whale coming up, if he's not blowing or shooting a spout up there, you're just going to see a little bit of his back.
And you're talking about an animal that's like 12 or 15 meters long.
Right. And we have to look for dolphins, we have to look for false killer whales and pilot whales, much smaller type of mammals as well. And if you're not watching very carefully, you could miss them. And then we take all that data and we put it into a geographic information system and actually map the encounter. What we're looking for there is, while the whale is still within sight, then we may record several positions and we may note any response that we think we see to our multi-beam system, and note exactly how long that took to occur and what the response was, and so forth.
And what have you found?
No response so far.
They don't seem affected by the multi-beam sonar.
No. So a couple times when we encountered sperm whales up here, they stuck their heads out of the water to look at the ship. But that's a very common known behavior when any ship passes by sperm whales. It isn't just mapping ships.
They kind of stick their heads up to look at you.
Yeah, they know something's here in the area, so they pick their heads up to see what's going on. Then we had pilot whales come by the ship, and we actually had to stop the ship because they looked like they were going to come within 200 meters of the ship. And they showed no change in behavior whatsoever that we could detect. One of the things I was going to point out is, if you look at this water column here, Colleen, on this particular cruise, she saw these artifacts appear, these sort of concentric rings. You see, it looks like they have little white nodes on these rings coming down. She saw this on the screen, and she immediately called down and told the person on watch to start recording the water column data, and she alerted the whale observation deck upstairs. She had seen this before on previous cruises, and that's what it looks like when you have sperm whales and their calls. That's what it looks like on multi-beam. That's the interference.
So she actually could tell the species of whale that you guys were going to see.
And she looked at this and got everybody recording it, so that's why we have this image right here. And she was absolutely correct. Within a matter of seconds, they spotted the sperm whales out off of near the ship. Not within 200 meters, they saw them off, but the system actually picked them up before the observers did. Wow. It's only because she knew what to look for. None of the rest of us do. We wouldn't have known what that meant. She did, and now we know what a sperm whale signal looks like on our sonar.
Coming up, Colleen tells us how she spotted the sperm whale signal.
The Curriculum Research and Development Group in the College of Education at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. CRDG's training roots go back over 40 years. Through professional development programs, curriculum workshops, research on teaching methodology, individualized school and district training, and so much more. The Curriculum Research and Development Group, improving schools, improving education. CRDG.
Welcome back to Voice of the Sea. Marine technician Colleen Peters showed me how she identified the sperm whale interference on the sonar. One of the interesting things I know you found, I think I see over there, is the sound of the sperm whales actually showed up. And how did you know that what you were seeing?
Simply from seeing it before. I was on another cruise off the coast of California years ago with the same system, and that's just what happened. Is we saw this crazy interference pattern in the water column data, which is the gray triangle. We were like, what is that? And then we got a call from the bridge saying that there were whales next to the ship. So opened the door, looked out, and there they were. So it seemed that we only had this interference when they were in some kind of vicinity of the ship. Once they left, then the interference left. And there weren't any other vessels in the area, especially in the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. we're probably one of very few vessels in the entire monument, and so it's clearly not another ship. So that's kind of how we figured out that interaction. I've seen it with sperm whales, I've seen it with some dolphins as well. But in all my experiences, I've seen plenty of marine mammals come up to the ship as the sonar's pinging and just ride in the wave next to the ship. I haven't really otherwise noticed any adverse behavior from that interaction.
Chris Kelly explains the hearing range of different whale species and how it relates to the sonar that he uses.
In this particular case on this ship, we're using a 30 kilohertz system and a 70 to 100 kilohertz system. Why I'm bringing that up is that there's a whole group of whales, the baleen whales, that are currently believed not to be able to hear above about 25 to 30 kilohertz. Therefore, theoretically, they wouldn't hear either of our sonars.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's one group of whale. Now there's another group of whales, the toothed whales, that do hear in the range of 30 to 100 or more kilohertz. Those are the ones that we would be more concerned about. Now, one of the issues here is that when people hear the word sonar, they think it's the same, whatever the Navy is using or whatever geologists are using or mapping people are using, it's all the same thing and it's going to affect animals the same way, and that's simply not true. So sonars can vary considerably depending on what you're trying to do with the sonar. In our case, our sonar is directed straight down. We're attempting to look at the seafloor underneath the ship, and the beams are straight down. We're not creating a big, huge sphere of sound. We're creating a very directional plane of sound. And that's
like a curtain or something.
A curtain of sound. So even if an animal passes through that curtain, it's going to get exposed to just less than a second to even a couple seconds of sound, and that's it at a higher intensity. And he probably won't even know what it just heard, and then it's gone. Because the ship is constantly moving when it's mapping. We're moving at 8 nautical miles per hour. So even if the animal is stationary, it's going to pass over that animal, through that animal so quickly, the exposure is going to be minimal. Plus, if we're in deep water, there's a chance that he won't even hear a single ping, because each ping, is going to have a duration of milliseconds in deeper water, a very small number of milliseconds. And then it's going to have a larger interval between each ping. So the plane could pass right through it and he doesn't even hear one single ping. So we think that this type of mapping is a lot safer and shouldn't really create problems versus other types of sonar, perhaps that for other applications like military applications.
Exploring Our Fluid Earth is the dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group. The award-winning Fluid Earth and Living Ocean textbooks are now interactive and online. New activities, updated content, and a teacher community. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now freely available. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org. Welcome back to Voice of the Sea. Josh Tucker is trained as part of the Marine Fisheries Service Observer Program, and he works independent of the mapping team to ensure the integrity of the research project and also that the scientific work is not harmful to marine mammals. So here we are on the observation deck, or I guess the monkey house.
Yeah, like they like to call it.
For all the bars that we can see behind us. And this is your working platform.
Yes, it is. This is where I will be sitting for good portions of the day during this trip, looking out for different types of marine mammals and things like that.
And you are a trained marine mammal observer.
Yes, I'm an observer with the National Marine Fisheries Service. So while mammals aren't my direct 100% thing, but I deal with them a lot while I'm out to sea for months at a time.
What is your expertise involved? Like, what is your knowledge base that you need to have in order to be an observer?
A lot of training, a lot of looking at these things over and over and over again, so you really know what you're looking at, because it's only for a second you get to see them while you're out there. So it's really important to be vigilant, and you see something, you got to know what it is almost right away.
Give me an example. What do you mean?
So you're sitting out here, then all of a sudden, about 500 meters off, and you see just a splash. You have to go to your binoculars if you can't see with your naked eye, and try to hope that you get to see the next kind of pass of it, so you can identify it from it. Say if it's a blow out of the front of his face, and to the left you'll see it's a sperm whale. So, and they look like trucks too, and there are big buses in the water, but that helps. But you'll see like a big spray, and you're like, you have to know, what it is from just little cues like that. There's a couple species that we might be seeing, which is a short-fin pilot whale and false killer whales that look very similar in the water. But you can tell from their dorsals and their width of their dorsals it's hard to identify them other than that. Well, there's some other things, but if you're up here, it might be your best chance.
One of the side projects on this cruise is to look at the effect of the multi-beam sonar on these marine mammals. What kinds of behavior are you looking for?
We're going to just be looking for changes in behavior mostly. So if you have, if they're out there just resting on the surface, and if we come within our reasonable, or if wherever we see them and they book off or something like that, we'll be able to see if it's really affecting their behavior. So hopefully it doesn't, so that's what we're really looking for. But they all do a bunch of different stuff. So you'll get some spy hopping, which is they float out of the water and they'll turn to see what's going on. Some jumping, maybe some dolphins bow riding, things like that.
What are some of the more interesting behaviors that you've seen?
Me personally, I've seen the bow riding is really cool, because especially with their young, and they'll come up and they'll jump and play around on the bow of the boat. The spy hopping's really cool, because they just kind of pop out of the water and turn and do all sorts of really cool stuff like that. And it's really, really nice to see these things out in the wild, because it's something that most people wouldn't get to see. So when you get to see something like that, even like a big breach is amazing, because where else are you going to see that?
And what is sort of the hardest part about your job? I mean, somebody sees this, they're like, oh my gosh, Josh just sits up here, it's beautiful, he looks out at the ocean all day.
Yeah.
How hard can that be?
It gets pretty hard, because after 8 hours or more, it gets really, really tiring, because you're just staring at nothing, because there's no contrast, there's no breaks. So you have to be ever vigilant, so you have to keep yourself entertained during that whole time.
How do you do that?
a lot of you have to do some exercises while you're doing to keep yourself awake. So you do some push-ups or something real quick to get back into it, is what I like to do. But you just you get real deep in your head sometimes. You think about land a lot, actually, when you're out doing this. You miss the land. But you just live for seeing those really cool interactions out here. So whenever you get that opportunity, it makes up for the hours of waiting. You
train some of the scientists to come and help you observe the behavior?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to giving my expertise to these guys and trying to get them so they can make really good quality positive identifications while they're on board, because that's really important for what we're doing. So you need to know the number, just there's a lot of different stuff.
We can take a look at your data sheet. Okay, and my name.
Yes. Then what kind of species do you say? So a short fin pilot whale, you saw one, or you saw 3 of those, you think. So this is where it starts to come in. So your best guess, then your min and max. So if you have a large pod together, so you think you saw 3, but there could have been 5, or maybe just 2. So, but it gives us a range, so you can, it's a little.
Sure, it's your estimate.
It's your estimate, right. If it was a mixed group, so if you saw another species with this interaction.
It's not males and females,
no,
it's 2 different
it's 2 different species.
So I just saw short fin pilot whales, I'm just going to say no.
But if you had another one, you would have to make another one of these completely for that other species.
Gotcha. And then behavior?
So this is the different behavior. So if you were just going and you see the whales just kind of moving along at a constant pace, that's traveling. Or if they're really, you can tell if they're really moving. Some of the false killer whales will really come, just zoom in and out. In and out. So then this is them just kind of hanging out up top of the surface, just kind of playing, not doing too much.
I see you have some other tools here too.
Yep. It's always good to have some guides around, because there's a lot.
So can you show me some of the species that we're looking at?
So when we were talking earlier, this is the short fin pilot whale and the false killer whale. So in the water, they have a very similar, you know, you might not be able to tell from up here, but you can tell, see the dorsal was halfway through the body, and this dorsal is much wider on this guy.
The base of the fin is much wider.
Exactly.
And sperm whale is also a fairly common sighting.
Yeah, up where we'll be, I think that we'll probably see some sperm whales. Their size, they have a very small dorsal.
Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah, it's really tiny for how big they are. They have this wrinkly, like you can tell they have a wrinkly skin on them, and it smooths out towards the head, but they have a big bulbous head, and their blowholes will come, like when you see the spray, it'll come off like the front.
So you actually can do some species identification by how they're blowing in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite to see?
I really like the false killer whales. They're really cool. They're really important to us out here for the fisheries and all sorts of, and they're endangered.
Why are they important for the fisheries?
Because their populations are so low, so we try to make sure that they don't catch them, or if they do catch them, we have to report it because there's only a certain number they can catch a year.
And how are they getting caught? Is it like
on the long line, on the bycatch and the long line. The fishermen sometimes will catch these on the long line for the commercial, the tuna and the swordfish boats. So we're there to make sure if they do, they get reported because there's a certain number that they can catch a year, or the fisheries will close down, or at least sections of the fisheries will close down. If you get videos or pictures of these things while you're out there, it's then you can sometimes zoom in a little bit. That's why the binoculars are out here, so you can. To do the kind of same thing. So if you're not 100% of the time, you can at least like try to go back.
And then is it hard? Like you saw them come up, but then now that they can hold their breath for a long time, so you got to try to predict where you're going to see them again.
So you'd be like, you go down, and you're like, well, I'll see them in 5 minutes over here. Kind of, it depends on where you're going. And the hard thing about binoculars too is you're trying to track and you have nothing to reference. So unless they're sitting up on the surface, it's really hard to try to track them with a pair of binoculars. But it does help.
Do you have some sort of system, like an alert system, if you saw action really close by that you needed to let the bridge know about?
You kind of go into, not a panic mode, but you kind of, as soon as you see something, your adrenaline little kicks in, even though, because sometimes it can be days before you see something, so the moment you see something, you usually jump into action, and you can get them on the radio. How
is it being on this boat, this cruise, going out on a scientific research vessel compared to some of the work that you do on the fisheries vessels?
It's going to be similar in the fact that I keep my eyes out for these things always. I don't have to write down every fish that we catch, so that's nice. My days are going to be shorter, only about 8 hours a day instead of 12. The conditions of living are going to be much better, and this is a really good, like on a lot of the boats, it's not a really good place to look out for, you got a really elevated position to look out for all these. You're going to see more out here than you would off this vessel than you would other boats probably.
Plus, you're not allowed to fish within the monument, so it's a place that you wouldn't get to go on a fishing vessel.
Exactly. This is a really, really amazing opportunity where it's a protected area where I hope to see a lot of these different things, so this is going to be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Voice of the Sea.
Turn your love of the ocean into a lifelong career. Join NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as we unlock the secrets in the deep oceans, track rapidly moving storms, model climate trends, protect and preserve our marine resources, and so much more. It's all in a day's work at NOAA. Find a career that makes a world of difference, enriching life through science, service, and stewardship. NOAA. The University of Hawaii's Sea Grant College program, focused on Hawaii's coasts and its communities through sustainable development, safe seafood supply, sustainable coastal tourism, hazard resilience, and healthy coastal ecosystems. Hawaii's Sea Grant.